Hi, I'm Jaedong. I will present our recent work, Gray Cell-Inspired Fragmentation and Recall for Efficient Map Building. This work is published at TMLR with featured certification. Conferences are held in various places, and they are usually very complex. However, after the first day, we can navigate without a map. This is possible thanks to the spatial memory in our brain. The two most representative examples related to the spatial memory are place cells and gray cells. Place cells are cells located in the hippocampus that are activated at a specific place. On the other hand, gray cells located in the internal cortex are activated in a hexagonal grid pattern. Based on this cell's activation, we can memorize the space. One of the prominent characteristics of gray cells is remapping, where their activation patterns change. In the first example, the activation pattern changes in the turning point, and in the second example, the entrance is the location where the patterns change. Then, when the remapping happens, it happens when the space is different from the previous space, and the criteria of difference can be a surpriser. The location of fragmentation can be explained by a simple model proposed by Klukas et al. In 2021. In this work, the map is fragmented based on the surpriser in an online manner, and the surpriser here is defined as the mismatch between the predicted future observation and the actual observation. Inspired by this online fragmentation, we propose a framework to solve spatial exploration. Now let's talk about our framework that uses fragmentation and recall. Let's say the agent moves from red region to the purple region. Given the observation from the environment, the agent decides the action to navigate. However, in our framework, the agent decides whether fragments the current model, such as a local map, based on surpriser or not. If it decides to fragment the model fragment is stored in long-term memory. On the other hand, the agent also checks if the stored fragment is more useful since it approaches to the corresponding space in the space. If so, it recalls the fragment from the long-term memory and decides the action based on it. So why fragmentation and recall are useful? As we discussed earlier, it can simplify one big problem into multiple chunks. As a result, since the problem set is reduced, we can use a local model that is expertized in each subset, and those local models can be smaller than the global model. On the other hand, by recall, we can avoid the catastrophic forgetting if we keep training the model in an interactive environment such as reinforcement learning scenario. One use case is SLAM, simultaneously localization and mapping. There are many ways for building a map, especially SLAM. Our work is based on frontier-based exploration, which was published in 1997, and this is still widely used in many state-of-the-art models. In this exploration strategy, the cell is divided into known cell and unknown cell. Among known cell, if the cell is occupied by words or others, it is called occupied cell. Otherwise, it is called empty cell. Then we define a frontier as the boundary unknown cells that are adjacent to the known cells, which means that we can go further from that point. By using those frontiers, we first build a frontier edge, which is connected line of frontiers in the map, yellow line in this figure, and the agent goes to the closest centroid. And this is the overall architecture of our fragmentation and recall framework in map building, which is called FireMap. Given the observation, the previous action, we update the current local map in the short-term memory and calculate the surpriser. Based on the surpriser and its distribution, we fragment the environment, which basically stores the current map. On the other hand, if the agent approaches to the overlapped region between two local maps, we record the stored map from the long-term memory to the short-term memory. We also set the subgoal based on the frontier-based exploration in the current local map or the connectivity graph of local maps stored in long-term memory. Once the goal is selected, we use planner that generates a sequence of actions to guide to the subgoal. Now let's talk about one by one. The first component is short-term memory, STM. STM builds and updates a local predictive map with exponential decay of confidence like the natural brain. Given the current observation and the previous action, we project the observation to the local map M and update the local map with this projected observation. So each cell has some kind of confidence score. From this confidence on each cell, we calculate the confidence of the current observation as their average. Then the subparameter is simply defined as 1 minus confidence. And we use this subparameter for the fragmentation. We calculate running average and standard deviation of subparameter, and based on those statistics, if the g-score of the current subparameter is greater than a threshold, which means that the current observation is too surprised for the agent, we decide to fragment the space. When the fragmentation happens, the current local map is stored in long-term memory and initialize a new local map in STM. Now it's time to describe what is long-term memory. Long-term memory is a kind of external memory that the agent does not refer to for frontier-based exploration. LTM stores local map and the ratio of the number of frontiers and the number of known cells in the map. This ratio is used for finding the desirable, which means less explored submap to go to. And let's say the location where the fragmentation happens as fracture point. This point has overlapped with multiple submaps. On the other hand, when the agent arrives at any fragmented location, fracture point, it records the corresponding local map to STM and updates or stores the current local map in LTM. Based on the connectivity graph between maps, we build connectivity graph of the maps, which I will describe later. Until now, we described two memories, STM and LTM, and from now on, I will introduce a subgoal to navigate for map building. We have two sources of subgoal. The first source is the current local map, and we use frontier-based exploration in the map. And the second source is the connectivity graph of map in LTM. I would say the former is a kind of local subgoal, and the latter is a kind of more global one. I mean across the local map. I will skip the details of frontier-based exploration since we already discussed earlier. When we use LTM for finding subgoal, it is defined as the fracture point between the current local map and less explored local map. And what is less explored? We use the ratio between the number of frontiers and the number of known cells, Q. If this Q is high, that means it might have more region that is not yet explored. On the other hand, we also consider the distance between the current location and the submap. And once it arrives to the desirable location based on this equation, and we calculate G again until the G is the same as the current local map. So that means it can go to the next space. So this is the entire architecture. We used 1,500 environments with 300 procedurally generated maps with 5 different colors of the worlds and starting locations. Then we divided into 3 groups based on the size. In the environment, the agent has the egocentric restricted field of view with occlusion, like actual rats. We reproduced the neuroscience experiments with rats. The fracture points match with the remapping locations of actual grid cells. This is because when the agent arrives at the fracture point, it can observe a new space that was impossible to observe since the space was occluded by the walls. In the 1,500 experiments, Fragment consistently achieves better performance with less memory usage on average during exploration, and its work clock time was significantly lower than that of baseline frontier-based exploration, especially as the environment size increases. And then also, where can we use FireMap in practice? Probably one can be used in the Mars exploration or in the robotics. On the other hand, we also tested in more realistic 3D continuous environment with robot operation system called ROS, and shows that our method generally performs better with less memory. Furthermore, FireMap can be combined with NeuroSlam and shows better exploration performance. We propose fragmentation and recurve framework for map building called FireMap, and the fracture points match with the actual neuroscience experiments. FireMap explores a new environment faster with less memory compared to the baseline, and it can be combined with other spatial exploration methods. We believe that this fragmentation and recur framework can be useful in other fields such as reinforcement learning. Thank you for listening.